Good evening, dear friends, and a very warm welcome to another Spiritual Light meeting. It is a great joy to welcome each of you who is joining us today from different parts of the world. Thank you for dedicating this time to study, reflection, and spiritual growth. I would like to extend my heartfelt welcome to our special guests this evening, Rodrigo Ortega, Charles Kemp, Sylvia Gibbons, and thank you all for your generosity in bringing your knowledge, your experience, and your dedication to the study of the human soul. Tonight, we will explore a fascinating and increasingly relevant subject, past-life therapy and mediumship. Hi, Charles.
Hello,
Hi, Rodrigo.
Elsa.
Hi, Sylvia. Your greetings, please.
Hello, Charles, go first.
Okay, thank you so much, Elsa, for this introduction, and thank you all to be with us and to give us this opportunity to address these important topics to you under the new point of view of the spiritual paradigm.
Rodrigo?
Hola a todos, buenas tardes, buenos días, buenas noches, donde quiera que estéis en el mundo. Es un placer, una alegría estar de nuevo con este equipo de amigos, sobre todo, para hablar con vosotros un poco sobre espiritismo y el tema de hoy, que es un tema bastante interesante, que trae bastantes dudas y que creo que con la ayuda de la espiritualidad podemos esclarecer un poco y aprender también con todo esto. Thank you for the invitation once again, Elsa, Charles, and Sylvia, who will be with us shortly. It's a pleasure once again to be here with you, with friends overall, and hopefully with the help of the spiritual guides, with the spirits who are with us today here, we can clarify and extend our knowledge about this topic today, which is very important and brings a lot of doubts to everyone. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Rodrigo. Thank you, Charles. Sylvia is coming. The problem with the computer, but will be here with us in a minute. My friends, we live in a time when many people are searching for deeper answers about emotional suffering, recurring fears, unexplained relationships, inner conflicts, and the meaning of life itself. Questions that once belonged only to philosophy or religion are now also being explored by psychology, neuroscience, consciousness studies, and many other fields. From the Spiritist perspective, however, these questions have been truthfully examined by more than 160 years through the teachings of Allan Kardec. Spiritism invites us to look at the human being as an immortal spirit, living successive earthly experiences, always progressing through the law of cause and effect, free will, and divine love. Past-life therapy seeks to understand whether experiences apparently connected with previous existence may help us understand present emotional patterns. Mediumship, on the other hand, reminds us that consciousness survives physical death, and that communication between the spiritual and physical dimensions is part of the natural laws established by God. So, we know that the importance to study, to understand, to be aware what's going on in our life. Our aims is not simply to understand past lives, but to live this present life better, with greater love, greater responsibility, and greater awareness as our immortal beings. Rodrigo, a first question that we start in reflecting, you, Charles, me, Sylvia, what is past life therapy and what is mediumship? Are they the same thing?
Well, thank you for the question. I'm not a specialist of past life therapy, although in our spiritist group in the Spiritist Center, we have a therapist, past life therapist. It's a hypnotherapist, which works and also has shared with us in a conference in the Spiritist Center the similarity between Spiritism and hypnotherapies. uh, Hypnotherapism, I think that's the word in English, and past life therapy, which is they use he uses both ways to in his sessions to to do his work. And he said that he knew Spiritism before knowing Spiritism, because in his sessions he was such in contact with experiences. When he used to do or he's still doing the past life therapy, um, that he faced everything we learned. We are learning with the Spiritism through his experiences, past life experiences, and this helped him to know or to accept more easily the Spiritist philosophy and knowledge. Past life therapy, I think we have a specialist here, Sylvia, but as far as I'm concerned, past life therapy is a therapy. I mean, is a way that a therapist uses memory regression, in order to treat traumas and other things which are creating a burden for the person, or creating some problem in the life of the person. And using this therapy, the therapist takes these past life experiences to understand what's really, let's say, causing the conflict, or the situation, the difficult situations the person is passing in the life. And then, as a therapist with special techniques, he uses these experiences to treat the person and give a person better ways to face the life circumstances which are creating some burden, let's say this way. Of course, when we talk about past life therapy, the therapies somehow, even though the person is not a spiritist, because not all the past life therapists I have known, so they are necessarily spiritist, but they know that they believe in reincarnation, and he faces that in the therapy. So, as said, so this is a therapy, and of course the therapists know or understand that life is a cycle. I mean, so we reincarnate to learn, and we have had other experiences which are, let's say, impacting in our current life, and he uses this in order to unblock, let's say this way, ways to face the difficult situations the person is facing. Whereas when we talk about mediumship, as Kardec explains in the mediumship book, so in the medium's book, it's the capacity that we all have, some people a bit more ostensibly, to intermediate or to serve as interpreters of the spiritual world, the spirits. So it's this capacity of a spirit using my ways, let's say the way, organic ways, or physical ways, or my brains, my thoughts, my intelligence, in order to express and to make himself known to others. So this is basically mediumship. So mediumship and past life therapy has in common the understanding that we are all spirits, or we are all immortal beings reincarnating to evolve, to progress. But mediumship is one thing, and past life therapy is another thing. Mediumship is an organic faculty which we all have in different ways, and some people have more extensively to facilitate or to communicate with spirits and perceive the spiritual world. Whereas past life therapy, is a way for the therapist to treat traumas and other things using this understanding of past life. I think that's what I would like to mention about that.
Great, Rodrigo. Very nice indeed. I would like to listen Charles' reflection first, and I will pass to Sylvia, that she is a past life therapist.
Yes, I will make it short. Of course, the added value is that the spiritist body of knowledge brings is the spiritual paradigm. So for a materialist paradigm, past life therapy does not, even not make sense, because there is only one life and there is no past life. So it's somehow a restricted vision. Whilst with the spiritualist paradigm, admitting that the plurality of the existences, we can understand easier that the personalities we had in the past lives may influence, or are for sure influencing, our today's life personality. And that sometimes this can be problematic when there are some traumas suffered in the past life. It can unconsciously have an effect, a reflection on the present life. So past life therapy is exactly about this, but it needs to be done seriously by a therapist, of course. When you discover a trauma, you need to know what to do with it. Otherwise, it could even be worse for the patient to know that about a trauma he suffered in a past life. So it needs to have the therapy behind, as Rodrigo told it very well. And mediumship is something, so for past life therapy, the regression to the past life is done by suggestion, by hypnosis, but it's the soul itself which is suggested. There is no need of intervention of other souls, whilst mediumship is something quite different. It's a capacity of our soul to get in contact or to be influenced by other souls, generally discarnated, albeit it's possible also to be influenced by incarnated souls. So it's something different indeed than this past life therapy, which is involving mostly the soul of the person itself, plus, of course, the therapist.
Thank you very much, Charles. Now, I think I'll do a question to Sylvia that is very important. Just as I said before, when I had a problem some years ago, and I went to Sylvia, and she helped me, and it was very nice indeed. So, Sylvia, why would someone need past life therapy if God wisely allow us to forget our previous lives?
I think, good evening, everyone. I'm sorry I was a bit late. It is a blessing, we know, that we forget when we reincarnate, we forget a lot past lives and things, but because we sometimes we need to live with certain families, certain experiences, that if we had the full knowledge of it, we wouldn't be able to live very well, fulfill the work that we came to do. However, I think to say that is a completely forgotten thing is not correct, because most people remember their past lives. And the interesting thing is, usually, the past lives that are memories are the ones who have a trauma, unresolved trauma in the past. So even when you come to therapy, you don't remember all the lives. You usually, the ones who come is the ones that we are having. There was something that was not finished in the past, and it comes back. And there are people who have their past life in their skin. They can remember it without realizing they do. comments that people say, things they say, how they feel about something. I remember once, just a very quick example, someone I worked with, and said, "Oh, I don't travel by plane." No, 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 I don't travel by plane. She would never, ever, she had never, I think she was 27 or something. She had never, ever been in an airplane. And she said, "Oh, I don't like airplanes. I will not go in it." Because, if you go, then there is a fire and a smoke and you can't breathe. And then you're desperate because you get stuck there and all that smoke. And she was terrified of going on an airplane because she was afraid of the fire, being stuck and having the smoke and not being able to breathe. She had never been in an aeroplane. She had never had that experience and nothing. And the interesting thing is not the words, but the kind of energy that comes on the words. Terrified. She was terrified. Just the idea of going on an airplane. This is memory. This is memory. Also, the interesting thing is a lot of things that people say, they are telling you their past lives. And I'm sure we as spiritists were a lot more aware of these things. I think every one of us at one point or another have heard someone saying something. Like I remember a pastor used to come to a group, a lady. No, I don't believe in reincarnation, because if I did, I would know that I was a terrible person in the past. I did terrible things, so I don't believe in reincarnation. So, we hear things like that all the time. And we do, we do remember the traumas, the good, the happy lives, they don't come up in therapy. And I think one thing that Rodrigo said is really true. Mediumship is completely different. We all have, as in question 159 of the Medium's book, we are all mediums because we're spirits and we are here. And whether you accept reincarnation or accept that we have other lives or future lives in the past, is irrelevant, because we reincarnate, and most people have an idea about it. But the therapy, I think, is very specific. If you have a problem that you go to many. Can you hear me? Because my image is gone.
We can
Yes.
hear
No,
you.
it's
Can you
okay. We
hear
can see
me?
you. We
I'm
can
sorry,
see
I'm
you,
having
Sylvia.
terrible problem with my internet, so I continue speaking if you can hear me.
We can.
I think one of the purpose of the therapy, and I think it came as well because we are progressing, our spirit is evolving, and this kind of therapy has come now to help us to progress, to clear quite a lot of the baggage that we take from, bring from the past. And the purpose of it is to go to what the person have, what they remember. A lot of things. People have a lot of repetitive dreams. That's past lives. And the reason why we do it is so that we can get into what the problem was and clear it. And it can be life changing, really can. It's amazing how it can be very helpful. But then, I think many people who come actually to therapy, and I've known, they don't accept the idea of reincarnation, they don't believe in spirits, they don't have any idea of this. But they think this is their imagination. A lot of people think, oh, I watched the movie, or I read a book, or my imagination creates it. And it doesn't matter. As a therapist, you use whatever the person brings you to work with, even though they don't think of reincarnation, but they think it's their imagination that they create all those stories. And sometimes the stories are extremely painful, extremely drastic, and you keep thinking, my God, you really need to have an imagination to have that kind of, things that you create that happen to you. So I think that's very important, and it's a very powerful therapy. And sometimes in one session you can clear quite a lot of problems, and it's not something that you go there again and again and again. I mean, of course you can if you have other things to clear, but it's very helpful. I personally had a physical pain that was cleared after I did a session of therapy, and I found out, something that happened in the past that brought into my back. But one thing that's important, and I'm going to finish soon, I don't want to take over. There is sometimes what happens, we have that memory in the background somehow. Say, for instance, an example, a person who in the past either was thrown out or fell from high heights or something like that. And when they're children, small babies or children or something, they fall. They fall down because, like children learning to walk, they fall, or they running and they fall. And that feeling that gives the body that you are falling will sometimes set the memory of the past life, and the person will be afraid of heights or be afraid of water, whatever it is. So sometimes a little thing that happens in our lives will awaken the memory. And we know that a perispirit, is one of the wonderful things about being a spirit, is that you have a lot of explanation to a lot of the phenomenon that happens, and you know that a spiritual body, a perispirit, keeps memories of the past, which transmitted to our bodies. We know that many illnesses and everything that we have in this life is to do with something we had in the past. So it's all connected. But having this knowledge is wonderful because it makes you go a lot further than, for instance, like Rodrigo said, a therapist who, there are many past-life therapists don't actually accept the idea of reincarnation even, but they do work. But if you have that spiritual knowledge, you can go a lot further and can be life-changing, doing it with the right person, of course, because there is a lot of trust that you need to have between the patient and the therapist. You travel into your soul, so you need someone you can really trust. It's a journey to your soul, and it's wonderful. It can be very helpful. Sorry if I went on a bit too long.
But it's nice, Sylvia, because our entire study tonight is around this theme. So in the Spirit's book that you mentioned, questions 392 399, the spirits explain that the veil over previous incarnation is an act of divine wisdom, and that is for sure. You Charles pointed as well. When now the question, perhaps to Charles a bit, to Rodrigo a bit, and to Sylvia to finalize. When memories emerge during past life therapy, how can we distinguish between an authentic spiritual memory, a psychological construction, and a symbolic expression of the unconscious? That is a little bit tricky because it's so much too much for me. I'm not a formal in this kind of situation. I never studied this kind of situation as Sylvia did. What do you think, Charles? Charles, Sylvia left?
It's indeed a very difficult question. And because it's not always possible to to distinguish it, or at least it is never easy to make this distinction. And again, as I told at the beginning, when the memory comes about a trauma through the suggestion, if it's really something coming from a past life, okay, what do you do with it? Knowing that we have, for instance, died in an airplane crash or whatever, okay, it's something when we get the new, which is heavy, and we need to know, and the therapist need to help. What do we do with this? So it's by solving this type of trauma. Yes, then it can help, but otherwise it cannot. And sometimes, of course, when it's not a real trauma, when it's something, how to say, that we build ourselves, you told about psychological construction in your question, with something which has no real reality, it nevertheless influences us because when we are turning around a same idea, this idea gets somehow real in the spiritual world realm and can influence us. This is also a mechanism which is well known. And when you talked also about the unconscious, what is really the unconscious? Is the unconscious something coming from the spirit? Is it just exactly the things which are not in our wake state present in our mind, but which is just exactly coming from the past lives or from things that we lived in this life and we have forgotten? So you see, everything is linked in those, and it is difficult to make the difference. But one thing is sure. I mean, personally, I'm not candidate to know about my past life, and it's for a very simple reason, because we as a spirit we progress. So the more we go back, the less we have progressed, and the more we will find out things which may be heavy to carry. I really don't know all the bad things I did in the past. I prefer to have them forgotten, as you told at the beginning also, Elsa. This that we in the normal state we forget the details of our past life, even so they are still influencing us. And indeed, to go to see what you were in the past life for curiosity is not something which is not advisable. So it is only by how to say, Colonel Rocha. It was at the end of the 19th century or the beginning of the 20th century who started this type of investigation and found out that they can help some person which has problems in the current life. It can help to fix them. They found that this past life therapy is really something which can be helpful, but only again by therapists which know what they are doing with experience, with how to solve the traumas and so on, and never ever for a pure curiosity. I want to know if I was a pharaoh in Egypt or whatsoever. This is really something which makes no sense, and even for which you can never have an evidence. It can be something even suggested by some spirit which are not so elevated, who just want to fascinate us in a given way. So it's really a field where we have to be very careful.
I'm sorry. Sorry. I was organizing here. Sorry.
Can I
Again,
make just
I'm
a
like
point?
Rodrigo, not a big specialist on the subject. So
Uh,
Yes, we can ask Sylvia to Rodrigo make a comment, please, and so we pass Sylvia later.
well, I'm not a specialist, but of course, as I said, so I have been in contact with a good friend, Antonio Gallardo, who is a hypnotherapist and also works during his therapies with regression, memory regression. And as far as I'm concerned, I'll link my answer to what Sylvia commented. Because to be honest, for a therapist, differentiating if it's a past life or not, maybe it's not so relevant because at the end, if it's a past life event or if it's something which is purely in the mind of the person, it's causing the trauma, is influencing the person, as Charlie said. So maybe it's something that it's in the unconsciousness or also the subconscious, and this there is from what I understood, there is a, a misconnection between what I know, what I perceive, like with a awakened mind, versus what it comes to me, even though I don't I don't notice that consciously. So I think in my view is that for a therapist, Sylvia can comment better then, it's not really so relevant. More important is to understand what that circumstance which the, let's say, the client or the patient is bringing. I don't know, in some countries they give different names for that, but what they bring to the table during the therapy for the therapist to get that material and work in order to help the patient and to overcome that situation. Um, I just would like to comment on experience. So my daughter, she is 13. Since very beginning, when she was born, not immediately, but when she started being more conscious about herself, sometimes she would wake up in the morning saying, crying, say, "Hey, I don't feel like part of this family. So I don't feel I'm part of this family." And this also was, in certain circumstances, bringing to her fear that my wife and I would split. So she was very, how can I say, fearful about that. And it was a trauma. I think every time we would like have a discussion, she would feel very bad about that. And then we brought her to a therapist. Um, and then during the regression, she was she passed through a divorce situation in a past life, and this caused the trauma she was facing. And then, of course, and we were not, most probably this was not said, I was in the session, I was following up the session, given that she's not under 18, so I would stay with her. And then I faced that, and then we didn't know if one of us would be part of that circumstance, or would be how can I say, a person belonging to that circumstance in that past life. But of course, she was bringing that circumstance and the trauma, and this would affect her not in her entire life. I mean, so she's still passing through other circumstances, other situations, which is bringing evolution, progress to herself. But that circumstance specifically was something that could be treated, and now she faces the situation in a much nicer way, much more lighter way. And this is a real circumstance I can bring to the table here for us to understand that, yes, it works. And it helped my daughter to face life in a lighter way. And now she has overcome this circumstance or this trauma. I think what it did is it brought to her some consciousness about something which was hitting her unconsciously, and now she could manage, and the therapist was capable enough to bring that material and to help her to digest that and to move forward in a much nicer way. I think that's one thing that I would like to bring in to the table for as an example.
Very nice indeed, Rodrigo. Something that I think Charles pointed before. Spiritism never encourages the search for past lives memories, merely out of curiosity. Isn't it, Sylvia? Would you like to comment with these memories, Sylvia, that emerged during past life therapies?
Yes, of course, that's one thing that they're studying, spiritism. But in my experience, people don't come for who they want to know who they were in the past life. Most people come because they have a problem. They've been to therapy. Actually, that's one of the things. Many people been to therapy for quite a long time, and there is a problem that cannot be solved because there is one thing. Whatever we were, and some of like I said before, is the trauma that was unresolved. That's how the memories will come. And some people really, they almost don't live this life. They live in the past, in the fear of something happening. And, what you talked about his daughter, I've worked with children, actually, is fascinating because they just say things that come and, and their energy. And I think going back to the question that you said, the difference, of course, is part of the personal unconscious of the person. We keep our memories. In Spiritism, we know that we keep our memories in our perispirit and spiritual body, and it's reflecting in a physical body, a spirit, remember. And it's so much more open than, oh no, I don't know, I don't want to know. Because sometimes you go to a place that you've never been and you feel you know it. Sometimes you meet a person and suddenly, maybe you talk to the person, it's like you know them forever. Or you meet people you dislike intensely. And I know that is the question as well, or the spirit that goes, gets on with the others because they have the same. I know about that. But the memories, when it comes, is easy, it's very easy actually to differentiate when a person is really having a memory from where they are inventing it. And usually, if they are creating a memory, it's because they're hiding the real pain inside. And and that is quite easy to get to that. But I'm not going to tell you here because it's therapeutic tools. So if you go to a trauma, say for instance, an example, a person is very undecided. They take ages to decide anything. They are afraid of what's going to happen. And this can be quite difficult for a person to live because they always questioning, oh, shall I do this? Shall I not do that? Sometimes this is something in the past. It came from a decision. And once you see what was, is easier to deal with. Oh, yes, that would happen. Sometimes I see it's like you get into a room that's completely dark, and you see a shadow here, and there is something like a monster there, and you're looking at it, and then you switch on the light. And that horrible monster that was there is maybe a cupboard that's there, or, or the shadow is a plant. And you can see what is in the room. And once you see what is inside that room, you're not afraid of it anymore. There are things you don't need. And for instance, the example to what Rodrigo was saying about his daughter, was traumatic, what she had in the past. And she feared losing, she feared division, she fears people going. I mean, this is very common actually. There is that fear. And once you talk about it, you open that door. Yes, and children, especially children, they forget quite quickly. But we know what we were in a past life. We know if we are really sincere with ourselves. Sometimes when you see someone or some certain situation that you're not sure, I'm going to do this, and you're afraid and you can't decide, and there is all this. And I've worked with someone who was very never ever ever finished anything, never. And the phrase that the person used to use was, oh, it's not worth it, the effort. It's not going to work out. It doesn't matter what effort I make to be better. There will be someone who's going to destroy it. Imagine living in a situation that you were always feeling whatever you start doing that is not worth continuing because someone is going to. And it was a past life memory. It was something that happened. It was quite tragic, very painful, because, sometimes human beings can be quite evil to each other. And now the person, she went and finished the course, that she was doing and trying to give up on the second year because it's not worth the effort of continue to the third year. But there's so many things in there, but you differentiate, Elsa, when you are there as a therapist, you can differentiate when the person is creating the story or because the energy is different. The kind of, someone gets something from the past where they really feel the energy is different, you feel it different. But you can also work with that person with their imagination and you can take them deeper. There are many ways of working. And, it's so easy to go into past lives. You wouldn't believe how easy it is to get people, into going to their past lives because they know it. It's part of their, and it can be extremely helpful. And fears that you have that you don't know why you're afraid of something can be clear. Physical pain, I had the physical pain, as I said, that was completely clear when I saw the story. It can be very healing. But I think a point that Charles made before, you need to be with a person who is really serious, a therapist that's very competent, and it's not. And also I think one point that I like to say, because sometimes people talk to me about this, ask, but you tell me, I come to you to see Pastor, and you're going to tell me which my life is. And I said, no, you tell me what your life was. It's not something that you sit there and you say, oh, in your past life you did this and you did that. It's not like that at all. In therapy, the person, I mean, you worked, Elsa, you know, how it is. I don't tell anybody. I don't know what your past life was. You tell me, and I help you into your journey to find out, and because the person is the one who heals themselves,
Exactly.
and there is a way as well, because you talk to the person in a different level, because it's just the therapy. I think one point that's important to understand, that the therapy is not going there and find out which life you had. It's finding out what in any past life you had, because it's not linear either. What is the problem that you can clear from your life, and you can live a more plainful and more grounded life in the life that you are here now. So it's a powerful tool. It's a powerful tool.
Thank you, Sylvia. I will do a question now about mediumship to Charles. Throughout the medium's book, Charles, Allan Kardec repeatedly warns against fascination and the desire for extraordinary revelations. Can mediumship reveal previous incarnations? If so, under what circumstances?
Yeah, it's also a good question. If you ask if it can, yes, it can, but actually it's very, very seldom. And the same is for prevision of what happens in the future. So sometimes, yes, it happens, but it is in very specific situations where, for instance, therapy or to help the person itself. Now, we need to be very careful with mediumship because first, we are never 100% sure of what are the intention of the communicating spirit. So this needs to analyze what he's doing, saying, and stating, and what are the intentions and whatsoever. So to have a thorough analysis of the communication itself, because there can be some spirits with not so good intention, which are trying to fascinate us somehow and telling us stories which are not true. And the communicating spirits, they do not present their ID card or their fingerprint. We can only recognize them by analyzing the communication they transmitted us, and absolutely not by the name at the end, giving a signature of a known person or whatsoever, or a beloved one or whatsoever. We can never be sure about this. And second thing is, once we get a revelation about past life, how will you prove it is true or false? Today, there is no evidence about this. Is it some things, of course, are being transmitted, as we are telling since the beginning of this life. So these things that we have the unresolved problems or the trauma we suffered and whatever are reflecting in our personality in this present life. But saying, for instance, that you were this or that in your past life or this or that person, you have no means to verify it. It happened with Allan Kardec. By the way, the name Allan Kardec came from a kind of a revelation that in the Druid Celtic period, it was his name. But who can verify this is true or false? So it's absolutely impossible to verify. So Kardec just took the opportunity, of course. I need a nickname for my spiritist books, so he just took this nickname. But and I can tell you there has been a lot of researchers already to try to find out an Allan Kardec from that time, but it's very, very difficult, almost impossible to have any evidence about anything on that. And this is exactly why the subject is sensible. It can be misused by spirit with bad intentions in order to try to fascinate us. And the same is for the future, and even worse because it is stronger influencing our free will. When some spirit is revealing something about your future that he is inventing or he's saying to you in order to manipulate you, if you are not careful, you can fall into the manipulation, and it can heavily influence your free will. So all these type of things and practice are really not advised by the spiritist body of knowledge and practice in the groups. But sometimes the revelation comes spontaneously by spiritual mentors and making sense and also helping the person to overcome difficulties in the present life. So in these cases, yes, we can have some elements of to believe some pieces of evidences that these revelations make sense, and particularly because it has been useful for our present life.
Thank you, Charles. Rodrigo.
Can I make can I make a point of here very quickly, Elsa?
Yes,
Given what Charles was saying. Yes. In that book of Ivone Pereira, Memories of a Suicide, one of the therapies they do in the spiritual world is going back to the past lives. I don't know if you remember this in the book. And the person that she was writing about, he was terrified of going to remember. And he went to remember the life because he died. He had committed suicide because he became blind, as you probably know when you read the book. And then he had to go back to the life why he became blind. And they had a therapy there. They had to go through, and they had they had it actually in the spiritual. They had the machinery. They had to go and look at everything. It was like the images and everything was coming to them. So that was a process of work that was happening in the spiritual world. And I think personally, I feel that this kind of the serious work, not these people dance around, but I think it's something that the spirits brought to us the ability to have, because also one point, if you in therapy, you don't go and say, what was your name? What kind of clothes did you wear? And I think Rodrigo made a point about this before. We don't go, it's not to research reincarnation, it's to help the person who going through a psychological difficulty in this life that you find out. So we don't talk about how were you dressed, who was your general, whatever. We usually ask, how are you feeling? What does it make you feel? What thoughts come to you? We talk about feelings and emotions and fear. What's making you fearful? That kind of thing. We don't go and ask, to find out who you were if you were because most people actually were very few were pharaohs. And usually people who were sometimes very important people, if they ever come, they are terribly regretful with a lot of things that they did in the past. Most of us were peasants. Thank God for that. Sorry, I barged in, Rodrigo.
Oh, very nice. You point very well, Sylvia. It's always wonderful to have more comments and be clarified what this that means. And also, as Charles starting answering, high spirits rarely or almost never review previous incarnations simply because someone asks. Yeah? In our spiritism, we have very cautious and be careful what a lot of mediums are revealing things. It's not our task to do that. Therapy is therapy, past therapy. Mediumship is mediumship. But as Charles said, sometimes happens. As Kardec in previous incarnation was a druid. It was nice. Rodrigo, would you like to add a comment? Because we will do more 4 minutes and we start with our finalizing.
Yeah, very quickly, I would like just to say, to comment that I think it comes to the point where Kardec says in the spirits instructors of the purpose of the mediumship or the practice of mediumship. So I think if we do that in a useful way to instruct ourselves and to do something good for the generality, let's say this way. So, of course, we'll be surrounded by good spirits, and good spirits, they know exactly what they can or what they cannot reveal because this everything impacts us. So, if I say ball to Charles, because I can say some spirit can tell me, hey, tell Charles ball, and I said Charles ball. For me, it means nothing, or it means just a ball. But then for Charles, man, it can create a reaction because of some trauma with balls or something like that. So the spirits, they know, the good spirits. I mean, our mentors, who are surrounding us, when we are doing practicing mediumship with a good purpose, to serve, to help, to instruct ourselves, to grow morally, then we will be protected. Of course, as Kardec in the Spirit says. So if you are doing practicing mediumship without a good purpose, or not really with the purpose of being a good person, or not being careful about acting well or doing good, so we'll be surrounded by spirits which are not really careful about what they say. And of course, what they say, they can be very harmful. So you can ask a spirit which is not elevated, he can answer whatever, because the spirits who are ignorant, they say everything you ask. So that's the point. I can tell you an experience very quickly. So I have been practicing mediumship or participating in mediumship in the Spirit Center. We work for 5 years. During these 5 years, I have been in contact with many spirits who come and say that I was not a good person, that I was not, I did very bad things in my past lives. So, um, and of course, every time I was curious about, okay, but who was I? No, tell me. So you are saying that, but what did I do? So we participated together in an incarnation. What was my name? And they say, they are not allowing me to tell you because this will not be productive. This will not be useful. So when we are doing something for good, and we are surrounded by good spirits, and although we have such spirits trying to say something which could be harmful, so if we know who we are, who we were, just by curiosity or for something which is not really on a therapy or something like that, this could be very harmful. So, and then I have been never revealed who I was in past lives. and to be honest, are very curious, but I'm not, they do not tell me. And they say the spirits, the good spirits here, they do not allow me to do so, and they forbid the medium to reveal it. Although the medium would sometimes say, yes, I heard that, but I could not tell you. So that's just for everyone to say that we are not, you know, when we do something which is serious, which with a good purpose to serve and to work with good faith. So the good spirits, they will reveal exactly what is good for us, exactly what's good for us, not more nor less.
So
Thank you,
the
Rodrigo.
next step is not to be curious about it anymore. Because even if we don't remember the details, again, the tendencies we have and some habits or some trends are giving us clear signs of the type of things or mistakes we did in the past life.
Yeah.
So I definitively don't want to know. Because the more we go back, the worse it was. So better not to know the details. We know enough.
But
If we are the best
we
version
can
of
see our
ourselves,
life
so
today. We can reflect what we have done in the past.
that's why I
There's
speak
nothing
so.
needed to do the life, because in the gospel, a tree is known by its fruits. We know what's going on with me regarding relationships, regarding friends, family, etc. I can guess what I have done in the past in order to have this kind of life today. We don't need to do only in cases, as Sylvia pointed very well, fear of airplane or other things. Or me, when I did regression with Sylvia to organize because I didn't want to drive in motorway anymore. Really, anymore. With a car was really suffering for me to come from Brighton to London driving. But I went to Sylvia, she helped me, and I released this fear to drive in motorway, you see? And it's okay. I did for a good purpose, to help myself. Yeah? And it was nice. My dear friends, your last bye-bye now, because we are going to show our announcements and say goodbye.
Just one thing very quickly, going from what you said, Elsa. Sometimes people come for past life therapy, but they bring a problem that's happening in their life now. And as a therapist, you work with the problem that the person brings. You don't, oh, no, go to past life. No, at least I don't. Anyway, a person brings a problem, and if it is life, we work in this life. And it happens, sometimes. So
It's okay.
it's good.
Say your goodbye, Sylvia, now.
Well, nice. It was a very good conversation. There's lots to talk about. And it was nice being with Charles and Rodrigo again and you. And God bless you, everyone. I hope you enjoyed the talk and join us next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone. And thank you, Sylvia, Charles, and Nelson, once again for the opportunity to be here with you all. It has been a very good conversation. So we could have been like for hours speaking about the subject, but it's unfortunately it's time to finish now. Thank you, and hopefully I can see you all again in the next time. So thank you all.
Rodrigo,
Yes, thank
Charles.
you for having us. And again, I hope we could transmit to you a little bit how the vision changes about these questions when we follow the spiritualist paradigm, how it gets much wider and much easier to understand and also, of course, to help.
Thank you all for watching us. Now we are going to our announcements. Put your attention, but there are good things for this Saturday, okay? Uh-huh. Okay. Next week, the power of prayer, healing body and soul. We will discuss a very nice topic and show some example what's going on. Saturday, make your diary a time for watching this young girl, Giovanna Alves from London, how to talk about spiritism in a way that engages you young people. Be with us and enjoy the talk. Every Saturday, 10:30, online, you can scan this QR code, the Medium's book course or Medium's book study. It is following the ones that are studying more than 6 months, I think, starting the practice side. The Genesis book, every Wednesday, 12 o'clock London time, we are together studying this wonderful book. In August 28, 30, in Fátima, Portugal, Overcoming the Pains of the Soul, the Path to Mental Health, is a fourth International Spiritist Congress, Joanna de Angelis. And with us again in Belgium, 18 to 20 September 2026, 9 European Spiritist Gathering in Vegemont. You can ask, I can send information if you have interest to go. The Spiritist Magazine, we have an article in this issue, very nice, Silence, Suffering, Invisible Violence, very wonderful to read and to know a little bit more. And thanks to BAS, to Kardec Radio, to Irish Spiritist Federation, Life Spiritist Society, and Le Mouvement Spirit Francophone, that we are here using these StreamYard channels. That's it. Thank you. Thank you all. See you next time, next week. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
God bless.
God bless you all.